There we go. We're live. Hey, how goes it? Ken Bozak here to talk about Bitcoin and Bitcoin accessories. And today I'm with my bro, Christopher Robinson of Horde.exchange. How goes it, bro?
Dude, it is going very, very good. I'm glad we finally got to get this up and running. Yeah, been stoked for it for a long time.
Yeah, man, likewise. I got to see and hang out with you in New York City at the NFT NYC conference at the PlayStation Center, and you completely crushed it on stage. So congratulations again, dude. It was awesome. And I actually had to sneak backstage to meet you. So I found Jody, and I was like, Jody, I gotta get backstage. How do I not have a backstage pass? And he was like, wait, come with me. And he walked me back to meet you. So shout out to Jody and the NFT NYC guys. And I actually just talked to Consensus CoinDesk about Consensus, and they're working with Jody on an NFT swag bag. So I don't know if I just said some stuff I'm not supposed to say, but if you're going to Consensus, I know you're getting an NFT swag bag. So I want to talk about the future of gaming and non-fungible tokens. And before we really dig into the topics, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Maybe let us know, like, maybe how you got your start, where you come from, and what you're doing now in the industry.
Yeah, sure. Okay, yeah. So my name again, Chris Robinson, and I'm with Horde Exchange. And Horde Exchange is trying to enable true ownership of video game assets inside the blockchain, specifically Ethereum. And we use Plasma as a scaling solution in partnership with Omisego. A little bit about me is I came across Bitcoin in probably like 2011, and it took about a year or so to actually take the deep dive. But like, yeah, once I did, yeah, it's been a nonstop ride. It's awesome. And I was, let's see, doing my undergrad at the time. I like made my senior capstone about Bitcoin.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I used like my
How was that
graduation.
received?
It was good actually. My team was like really supportive of me presenting it up there. Um, yeah, no, people were stoked on. They like were definitely open minded to it. I ended up talking with a couple of professors about it afterwards. Uh, yeah, they seemed like open minded to it. Like it was a entrepreneurial major, so people were there to experiment and like come up with innovative ideas. So whether it like was going to work or not at the time, like people were receptive. So it was cool. Yeah.
So how'd you stumble into Horde.exchange and what you're doing there with that project now?
Yeah, I had been a pretty big supporter of like the Golem project for like pretty much since the start of Ethereum,
Yeah,
like before.
Golem was one of the first
Yeah,
projects I saw that like blew me away. Golem and Bat, they were the first two I kind of fell in love with.
yeah, they're awesome, and like the teams also like they deliver like consistently. So I've been a community member with them for a while, and just like been talking with them. In like probably 2017, it kind of hit the point where like I've been trying to break into crypto, like working in it full time. I've been doing like normal jobs. And so I reached out to the Golden team, and yeah, I was talking with them for a bit. They ended up coming out to ETH Denver, so I met up with them there. They had seeded Horde, like the parent company, IMAP. So just in talking with them, they recommended that I reach out to Horde as they were coming out of stealth mode. They said like they thought it'd be a good fit. Um, yeah, so I talked with them, and it seemed like something I actually hadn't really considered that much, other than like thinking about it in a very like abstract sense, like blockchain and gaming was like, yeah, it makes sense, but like really talking with the people who were involved, it was like, oh, this is something like quite a bit more. This is like for lack, I mean, like yeah, almost like a social revolution kind of a thing.
Well, that's a really
Like,
awesome story, though, and I hope it inspires people to go from wallflowers to actual members of a team because it is possible. A lot of people try to go like, "How can I get involved?" And I don't care if you're a graphics designer or if you're a shit poster or if you know how to do developing or engineering. Like, there is a place for you in this industry right now because it is so early. And if you even know the word Bitcoin, the word blockchain, and the fundamental buzzwords, you could get a job in this industry somewhere earning cryptocurrencies. So just, like Chris did, put yourself out there, man. And that's awesome that, you got a pretty, like, I think, the Horde Exchange, and, I don't know if I'm not no expert or whatever, but I think it's a great project. So congratulations for getting picked up by a great project and being in since, 2011, 2012 is pretty damn awesome. So where do you see like this space has as far as it has come from then till now? Like before we start diving deeper into it, like what is the evolutionary process of a OG? You know, because there's a lot of people coming in now, and all they see is Bitcoin's the real Bitcoin. Bitcoin Cash is a scam. BitConnect can make you money. Oh no, it can't. Like it's been so chaotic. But like from
Yeah.
your stance, how has this the few years has been for Bitcoin?
Oh, for Bitcoin? Yeah, I mean, it's been interesting. I think basically what's happened with like all of the forks that have gone on is like a bit of an identity crisis that was, it was there from the beginning. Like nobody knew how to define what this was called. When like people would meet on forums and be like, wait, why are you saying it that way? We should say it this way. Like this is actually what Bitcoin is. It's a store of value. Like no, it's digital currency. It's cash.
They start to sound like all the different legs of the government, right? It's like, no, it's a security. No, it's a commodity. No, it's a currency.
Yeah, and I think what happens now, like with the Bitcoin core community, is like chances are that's the one that ends up surviving as like not like the real Bitcoin, but as the one that just like has larger market cap for the simple reason that it incentivizes people not to transfer their Bitcoin. It incentivizes them like not to spend it, it just hold it. So from that point of view, it's it's meant to appreciate in value, I think. So I mean, I'm not saying that as like investment advice. I just think like that's kind of how things split up. And like I praise the forks that have come out of Bitcoin because I think like those experiments needed to happen. I think
Yep.
governance of the future isn't about voting as much. I mean, voting is going to be like part of it, but I think what's going to be a larger influence over things, different systems or networks, is like people just fork it and then you opt in. Like
No,
opting in.
exactly. And I'm really big fan of that like opt-in aspect. I just don't I'm not a huge fan of like the influence of the forkers may have or their opinions of said fork, but I still believe that that is, you know, you opt in to follow a self-appointed deity or not. And you go with a general consensus, or you become a minority and hope that it becomes a general consensus and you're right in the end. But the failed experiments have had to succeed or had to fail in order for Bitcoin to succeed. And that's just science. You know, like we need to experiment. And that's why I'm a big fan of Litecoin. I'm a big fan of BCH and the fact that we can experiment with these things in order to make Bitcoin better. Because anything your altcoin can do, if Bitcoin chooses to do it, it could do it also and do it well. But with network congestion and use case and actual like Bitcoin core developer agenda, will that happen? Not always. And that's why I like the idea of Ethereum and other things to deal with the congestions of things like blockchain gaming, smart contracts for things other than, I think, like, you know, things that, you know, everybody says gas fees and things cost too much, but when you think about a Fortune 500 company and what one smart contract could do for eliminating 20 middlemen and saving 7 figures or more a year, who cares how much the gas fee is? You know, sign me up. But there's going to be different use cases for each blockchain for everybody, and you're going to opt into using it for said use case if you want. So let's dig into Horde Exchange. You know, let's see what is Horde.exchange, what do they do, and what role does the Horde token play in that economy?
Yeah, sure. So we've got basically three products that we're going to be rolling out over the next two of them this year, and then the third one next year. And so those are going to be like the first one is a software development kit, and that's free and open source. That is for any game developer to go ahead and start integrating Ethereum and Plasma with their games. And the first one that we're rolling out is going to be for Unity, but we have one for Unreal that's not
Oh,
too far
dope.
behind in the development cycle. We'll have one for JavaScript engines, one for Godot or Godot, depending on how you pronounce it, which is like already an open source engine. So like we were talking about just before starting recording, like creating open source games with like open source in mind from the very beginning, like you had said. And yeah, so that's the first product is the software development kit. Then the second product is the exchange. And so that's going to be a decentralized exchange. It's a global exchange for all the different games to trade their in-game NFTs or even fungible tokens on that. The way the software development kit and the exchange work together is everything that's minted with the software development kit is automatically available on the exchange. So
Oh,
it's a way,
that makes it convenient.
yeah, so it's a way to bootstrap the exchange, and then game developers can take the exchange and white label it and install it back in the game. So that way they can have like their own in-game economy locally. And
And
then the
sort of
third,
like a hands-off approach too, right? Like they don't have to worry about monitoring each exchange of each game.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And if they open up a partnership with another game, for example, they can go ahead and white label or like whitelist the items from their partners' games, and then it's like an easy automatic bridge between.
Oh, so that will allow like that sort of a multiverse bridge right there, but allowing which games will use your NFTs, right? So you can't
Yeah,
just have some other game try to steal clout, because I've seen a lot of NFT blockchain games try to do that where, oh, we're partnering with this NFT and we'll give you this NFT if you have this NFT, and the other game's like, we didn't partner with anybody. They just so happen to be giving you airdrops if you hold our stuff. Like it's almost like clout stealing.
yeah, yeah, no, totally. And now this kind of gives a way to make it more consensual in a way, I guess.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
yeah,
And that's
and
what I think a lot of developers are going to want security of that consensuality of where their content's going to be used and how their environments that they develop will be utilized by the end user. Nobody wants to build Grand Theft Auto and have people turn it into Silk Road, no offense.
yeah,
But
yeah, no, it's true.
that could happen in that Decentraland environment.
Yeah, it's totally true. And it's also like a unique position to be in is to like be providing that type of infrastructure to blockchain gaming as a whole, because like we're talking about having like these multiverses or like how these worlds are going to collide, but there's no like mechanism for coordination quite yet. So having a project or platform come in and like provide the tools that kind of like bring people together, and it also gives us an incentive to like work to get people connected as opposed to having like making it uh a responsibility like totally on the developers to like do the business development. Is like we
Right.
kind of get to come in and like help out a little bit, which is kind of cool. Like, and the incentive for us obviously is that people use the exchange, but people can take their items to other decentralized exchanges too. Like it's all like still we're making that an open
That's the
market.
point of opting in, though, right?
Yeah,
Where
yeah,
I think a lot of companies are going to compete for the customer satisfaction and quality of experience
yep,
over nickeling and diming each customer. And a lot of the people think I'm crazy, but I see a future where Netflix is going to pay me to watch Netflix because Hulu will be willing to do the same. Why?
yeah.
Because they need people to watch the ads that the advertisers paid them to get eyes on.
It's so true. It's I mean, and from the gaming perspective, we've seen the evolution start from like buy to play, right? Like people had to buy a
Yep.
disc, and then they paid a lot of money for it, but then they could play it in unlimited amount. And then the price got cheaper, and it got like swung into like the free to or not free to play, but like pay to play.
Yeah,
So
pay to
now
play and pay to win. That was the
pay to
real.
win. So then it became like a subscription model, like pay less, but only pay as long as you play. And now it's free to play with a premium service. So now it's like getting cheaper and cheaper for people to start beginning to play games. There's no reason that that pendulum won't swing even further in favor of players where now they start getting paid to play.
Yeah, you
So
could have $100 gaming experience playing Fortnite without ever giving them a dollar.
yeah, 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 yeah.
You
It's just,
say that to any game developer 5, even 3 years ago, they would laugh at you. They would just like you're going to fail. This is not sustainable. And then little do they know that the more you give, the more you get. And that's the business model of the future. Every industry will realize the more they give, the more they will get. And open sourcing is going to be one of the biggest highlights. It's going to be the biggest buzzword besides like privacy right now. It's a big one, but I think open source is going to be a big buzzword coming up real soon because people are going to want to have true asset ownership, and without open source, they don't actually have true asset ownership.
yeah, we'll see like hybrid models starting out. People will like compromise and say like, well, we need to have some stuff that's proprietary. And I actually do think that that is true,
Oh,
but like,
for sure.
but, but the assets, like if they're not open source, they're going to get competed out of the marketplace by the games that decide to be more open
Yeah, I
source.
think decentralizing too much is too much of a good thing becomes a bad thing, and that's why projects that are truly decentralized from their day one don't ever meet the end of their roadmap because there's no consensus. It's too decentralized, and proprietarying some of the stuff and having some overhead and leadership in the development of the environment I think is going to be key, but not so much the actual asset. I think that will probably be flourishing in the bounty economy, where a lot of these games will just post a bounty. Like imagine Grand Theft Auto 10, and they don't have to do a thing. They don't. They own the environment. They only just need the cars and the houses. And well, why don't we just put out a bounty and have developers do it? And we get free labor and we just pick the best ones. And I think that's going to be the next like mini gig economy, will be like creating and participating in in-game environments.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. I think a lot of the business models that we see now with blockchain gaming are very simple, but that's for good reasons. Like we're still very, very early on. But yeah, what we'll end up seeing is I think more games will shift to being focused on like user generated content. Like I used to play Tony Hawk. Like that was like my game back in the day. But what I spent most of my time playing was the create your own skate park stuff.
Yep.
Because I was, oh, dude, like I'm gonna throw in like spikes underneath the kicker ramps or whatever.
Look what
Uh,
happened to Mario when they did Mario Maker. It blew back up.
yeah. And if you let players go ahead and design their own levels or their own characters or whatever, and then the players get to mint those as NFTs, then the game developers don't have to do that much work, like you said. Like all of a sudden, like all this content rich materials coming forward for
Fortnite's doing this. Have you seen the Fortnite trials that you can build? You can build your own Fortnite battleground, and people set up obstacle courses and race in their own built obstacle courses. And it's like those videos get millions of views on the obstacle courses, and that's all free for Fortnite. Free marketing, free
yeah.
advertisement, free in-game content that the other guy has created. It's so revolutionary. It's actually hard to grasp that it actually matters, right? Like it's happening so rapidly, so seamlessly that it doesn't matter. Nobody seems to care, but it actually matters a lot. Especially if you look at the new Mortal Kombat that just came out and the way that they're starting to do things where they're selling skins. And you never would have thought playing Mortal Kombat that you could buy a special outfit for Scorpion for $5 more than you bought the game, and have a different outfit when you kick Sub-Zero's ass than everybody else. Let alone do it on the online environment with people in all around the world.
Yeah. Online game. I mean, yeah, just being able to connect with other people online is, I mean, it totally transforms the entire
Well,
game. Obviously,
I
like
want to
people.
segue this a little bit towards like the gig economy for gaming. Like, look what Ninja has done. A lot of kids 10 years ago would have said, "Hey, I want to be like Michael Jordan when I grow up," athlete, right? But now they want to be like Ninja or Tifu or PewDiePie. PewDiePie. I said it
Yeah,
right. You know, like they want to be these content creators, these the Kim Kardashians of Instagram, who, what is it? What's that Kardashian? She just made like $1 billion because of her Instagram post. Basically, it's insane.
dude, it really is. And I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, you could get into so many reasons for like why that is, but part of it for sure is like it's hard to figure out how to navigate real life sometimes, a lot of the time.
Yeah. So,
And
well,
then,
where do you see the differences though
yeah,
from like legacy gaming as a job, like what Ninja does right now with like Twitch and Fortnite and all that, as opposed to like blockchain gaming or content creating economy? Because I feel like it's sort of like driving a taxi is what like Ninja's doing right now. If you look at like streaming as the ride sharing being what people do with Uber right now, like what PewDiePie, he just went to D Live. He's already moving on to decentralized content, and blockchain based content platforms. So I'm just curious, like, do you see a way to make money that is different than it is now when it comes to gaming due to the resources of blockchain?
yeah. I mean, yeah, the biggest thing is like it starts at like where we were talking, like just being able to own the content in your game and take that into the real world. Um, it's sort of like because the assets follow you anywhere you go, uh, like the game never stops.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, could you
So
imagine if you had your private key to your old Charizard card? Or
yeah,
if you could use that private key for your Charizard card in Yu-Gi-Oh or Steam Monsters.
yeah, exactly. And I think actually what will happen, it'll be like an equal balance. Like you'll be able to make a living from playing games in new ways. Like new gig economies will open up at the same time. A lot of the NFTs or whatever activity you do on chain might unlock certain permissions in the real world, like stuff that you would normally have to pay for. You know what I mean? But it'd be like part of some promotion. But because you participate in some sort of economy in a game, then maybe you get a free ride on Uber, or maybe you get free groceries or something like that during like some like Dorito sponsorship or
Yeah, that
something.
happens. If you go to
Yeah.
the nightclub in Vegas, they'll pay
Yeah.
your Uber comp.
Yeah, exactly. So I think like participating in communities, it'll start looking a lot more like guilds. Like you won't have to.
Genius. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, you won't. You just. I mean, some stuff you'll have to pay for, and you'll be able to make some of that money in games. But a lot of stuff, it'll be like, people align based on values or a shared interest in some way, and they share resources. For still like very like capitalistic reasons, like you're trying to promote something or whatever. But
Yep, marketing, branding, data
yeah,
mining, whatever the nefarious end reason is, they're still going to gamify it, incentivize it, and pay you for that now.
yep,
Otherwise, somebody else will. That's why they're going to do it. It's not out of the kindness of their heart. It's still in the business mindset because they're competing with another competitor, but now in a different way. They've never had to battle for our love and affection before. Verizon doesn't care if you don't like Verizon. They're like, what,
right.
you have two other options, and if you live in this area, no other options? Deal with it, Like, that's how they treat us.
Yeah, no, it's totally true. I mean, like hyper competition is going to get real weird really
That's
fast.
why I don't like the tribalism in crypto and all like the monopolizing of like the faith and love of future of give everybody a fair shot. Tron, Engine, Ethereum, Steam, everybody wants to do blockchain gaming. Cool, let them. Nobody wants to burn down PlayStation because they think Xbox is better. Just let things flourish in their own directions, and synergy and cross pollination and incentivization of those like adoptions of features that people choose. That's why we have things now like iPhones and Androids. They're just, people can choose. You either want this or you want that, but you don't have to say that Android's the only one. Stop building Apple. That's where we get into monopolies and end up with the Federal Reserve of blockchain gaming.
Yeah, no, it's true. A lot of people talk about. I mean, most of what the conversation has been about in blockchain is decentralization of power, basically. But there's something to be said for decentralization of experience, especially when it becomes digital and that becomes so fluid.
Damn.
Like people should be able to opt into whatever.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like people preach the whole do your own due diligence. People barely got their GEDs out here. Like, you think I'm going to be able to do my own due diligence on this blockchain thingy?
Yeah,
No. No, we're just going to have to use it until it breaks and, just, trust fall. That's a lot of this is going to be trust fall. I like the fact of doing your own research. That's cool. But I feel like if people did too much research on how to ride a bicycle, they never would have fell and scraped their knee and learned how to ride a bike. They would have got scared out of it. And that's what's going to happen with doing your own. Like, don't tell Ninja to do his own research for blockchain gaming. Just tell him to start playing some blockchain games.
yeah. No, it's true. It needs to be cheap to try different systems or mechanisms, whatever that is. Like it needs to be made easy. Like, and user experience has to be a big part of that. That's why, again, like blockchain gaming is probably going to be the linchpin for decentralization. Like not taking over, but like becoming what it needs to be.
Right. And you said Horde is working with Unity and Real 3D, right?
Yeah. We've yeah. So our Unity SDK will be coming out like pretty shortly, and then Unreal 4 will be followed shortly
So
after.
I know Engine has announced the same partnership, which is a competitive blockchain. Oh no! God forbid I
Yeah.
bring that up. But you're working with Ethereum, Engines, and Unity and Realty. Do you see the synergy already, or is it still a little bit like a barrier to have that multiverse? Like even though Horde Exchange is working with Unity and Real 3D, so is Engine, but they're
Yeah.
separate blockchain technologies. Is it multiverse ready, or is there still those bridges that need to be built for outside blockchains?
Uh, so actually, I see like I've talked with the engine guys. As far as I'm concerned, like the way we've designed things is they work together just fine.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's like as far as like the SDK stuff, like those are both used for the purposes of minting any tokens, like for in-game stuff. It's like meant to put the game on chain in some way. So like again, there should be diversity or like different options in terms of like how you get items on the blockchain for the first time. And if that's with like Engine's SDK, that's cool. If it's with Horde's SDK, that's also great. Yeah, I mean, it's important to like have both of those available for developers and like anything else that might come up on the market.
There
It's
was
just
an There
Yeah.
was an ICO that kind of blew my mind a long time ago when I first started looking at ICOs, and it's the first one I invested in. Was do you remember Mobile Go game credits?
I don't know if I'm familiar with it
It
actually.
was it was a weird project, and I don't know what they're up to anymore. I still have their tokens if they ever do anything. They were supposed to build their own app store and blockchain games in their own app store, and it was very, very like our own, right? They wanted to have everything under their own umbrella, and that's why I don't think they really came to much after their ICO. But what I thought was cool about this ICO was they did an ICO on the Waves blockchain and the Ethereum blockchain for a 1-to-1 evaluation. So say there was 21 million ICO tokens and you were using 20 million of them on the Ethereum blockchain. Well, 20 million of them would be put on ice on the Waves blockchain, so only 1 million could float around. And if you were using one on one, the other one would be. So there was only 21 million in circulating supply from both blockchains at one time, even though there was 42 million tokens altogether. And I thought that concept was really cool to think about NFTs to where I could have a crypto kitty on Engine and I have a crypto kitty on Ethereum, and they're the same damn kitty, but depending on where one's moved, the other one cannot be. So I'm just curious, is like that's something that you have ever thought about, where like we could have multiple in-game contents that are cloned on other blockchains, but can only be represented one at a time in game.
I've never thought about that. It's a super interesting concept. I mean, at the end of the day, the whole point of blockchain is not to create closed systems, right? They need to be open. If you have a closed system, then that's like the same as a server or something like that. You know, for finance or anything that has value, that's not that hot.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, I think some cool use case of stuff like this may be like imagine if Fortnite was a blockchain game and they could issue ERC 721 tokens at a limited supply, open market, blah, blah, blah. They could give Ninja 100 of his own NFTs and then drop, 320 of them on the open market and let the open market decide what they're worth, but at least the inspiration that came from it is a stakeholder in the NFT itself or something to that effect where even if Ninja wanted himself, I could go to Horde.exchange, I could use the SDK, I could create my own NFT and I could sell it on OpenSea or whatever other exchange, it doesn't matter, and put it out there for games to pick up and actually use in their game. So like I can make an NFT and then just suggest it to be used in a game before it ever is. So a ninja could have essentially made his own skin for Fortnite, sold it like on, wax.io, and then maybe Fortnite picks it up.
yeah, no, it's totally possible. I think like that's some of the cool stuff too is that people get to like build very interesting relationships with people in their community. Maybe that's like a pro that they admire, or maybe that's a pro with the people who support them. But just yeah, being able to make that like more peer to peer and for people to be able to be rewarded for it
Yeah, I
is
mean, there's this weird sticker app. I don't know if you've heard of it. It just came across my radar. It's a legacy app, but it's for like PewDiePie and Ninja to make their own stickers and then give them away or sell them. But they're not tokenized. They're centralized to this company's ledger. But
yeah,
it's out there, and these gamers are actually and streamers and content creators use this service already in a legacy fashion.
yeah,
I think it's really interesting that when I'm so far blockchain, I don't realize that some of this is already happening legacy side. It's just the rape culture aspect of it, right? That centralized ledger where this company owns your content, your sticker. Is it really your sticker? Do I really own your sticker when I buy it on the centralized network? And what terms and services may I break in the future where I lose all this in-game content that I have bought?
yeah. Well, there needs to be some kind of a game that is only possible with blockchain. I mean, certainly like the hyper competition is going to be a big driving force, but there also needs to be some sort of game mechanic that emerges that you can only play when blockchain's involved.
Right.
And that'll, I think, help wake people up a little bit to like, oh wait, this is the legacy is different. It's like it's limited in some way.
Yep. Do you think this will inspire the development of atomic swaps, not just for like currency exchange, but for asset exchange? Right, like every time people bring up atomic swaps, they're really thinking of currency exchanging like Bitcoin to Ethereum. I'm thinking CryptoKitties to Steam monsters. I think that there's going to be more use of NFTs than of cryptocurrencies. So the real incentivization to develop these protocols may actually come from the obscure, the gaming, other than the trading, right? So I think I'm hopeful that we'll see atomic swaps in the near future, but I also predict that it will be blockchain gaming that actually incentivize the development of it.
Yeah, it's true. And I mean, you see it like time and time again in gaming that players come up with like very creative institutions, like stuff that the game developers never thought the players would want to do. The players are just like, we're going to make this hack. We're going to figure out how to do this. And so there is like that kind of demand that just happens from the players. And when their assets are put on chain, they're going to be able to open up their own smart contracts and create those institutions on their own. So they're going to be able to figure out how to do, any sort of like simple type of atomic swaps or even like really complex ones.
Right.
But yeah, like I have this idea of something that would be like fan fueled esports, where pros would be competing in some kind of an arena with each other, or like it'd be like a battle royale game, right? But like during the game, they wouldn't be limited to only the items in the game. Instead of, because like fans already do this, they already donate money to their favorite players, like they tip them all the time. It's like, why not just let them like deposit items into the game to support their favorite pros? And there might be some kind of a prize for that tournament. I could envision a pro hiring a manager to sort of like negotiate terms between the prize winnings and the people who are donating items. Like, oh,
absolutely,
shit.
that's the guild aspect.
Yeah. Like if you donate, some sort of like life potion right now because like the pro, like Ninja is like low on life or something like that. We'll give you like 5% of the prize pool, and maybe that includes some like really cool limited edition NFTs for that tournament. And they start like distributing it out. So all of a sudden, like these games become way more complex. Like those kinds of atomic swaps happen on like a very large scale with people all over the world, and they don't need to know each other. And that's something that like pretty much you could argue only blockchain could do.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I think that people don't realize is modding servers and cheating is
Yeah.
the more it's gamifying the game itself. It's a game within the game, and if you don't unlock that ability, you're going to become stale, and it happens. People get bored of games because the directors and the board, they have a vision for it, and they don't open that vision to the people that are actually playing the game. You know, they're stuck in their cubicle, not actually utilizing the thing that they're creating, and then taking an entire market by saying, "No, we don't want your contributions." But I think the first companies that start, allowing viewers of streamers to mod the game and contribute to the gamified aspect, like, yeah, it's going to be different. But if you look at what PUBG, Fortnite, and Apex and Blackout, and all these battle royale games have done, is they have broken constructs of how gaming should be.
Yeah.
Should be. When you talked about how gaming should be years ago, if you would have mentioned this entire concept, it would have just been a joke. It just wouldn't have worked. No, but that's because the technology at the time didn't allow for it. Now we have streaming, we have internet access that allows for this. We have all these protocols and tools that have been developed on the internet that made battle royale gaming feasible. Not just feasible, but profitable. And now the new business model. And now we have protocols like NFTs and technologies like blockchain. And games are going to adopt that and move on to another unfathomable, profitable construct. And I think that when you touched on the Fortnite thing, I talked about this before, and I wanted to see what your thoughts are. Microtransaction honeypot pools. So Battle Royale, 99 people playing. Everybody has a Lightning wallet, and they have to pay a microtransaction for every minute that they're alive in the game. And as they kill people, they get those coins that the person put into the pool. The last person that's alive at the end of the Battle Royale wins all those microtransactions that have went in. 10% goes to the developers, 10% goes to server fees and maintenance, 80% goes to the winner. And I think that is unfathomable, but I think that with this technology and the right execution, that it is the next profitable business model for gaming.
Yeah, no, I mean, stuff like that is very important. It's streaming money. That's what we talked about in the early days. blockchain was like, this is going to be streaming money. And then people got caught up in transaction fees being too expensive, and they thought like, oh, never mind. I guess streaming money isn't really going to be a thing. But with technology like Lightning or with Plasma for
Side
Ethereum,
chains.
yeah, that's possible. Um, and yeah, I mean, we came out with like a proof of concept game for streaming money, which was Plasma Dog. And like as you run through the game, like coins are instantly deposited into your wallet every time you collect a coin, and it's like extremely cheap for those transactions because it's all run on a Plasma network. Um,
Where can people play Plasma Dog? Because I know it's a platform kind of game. I've seen it once or twice, but I actually haven't had the chance to play it myself, so I might play it after this on my next gaming stream.
Yeah, for sure. You can just Google Plasma Dog. That's a good way to find it. But the actual URL is plasmadog.horde.exchange. And you can play that on your phone or obviously on your laptop. It's a browser game, so you don't have to download anything. It uses a burner wallet, so you don't have to like set up any private key stuff. Um, yeah, pretty easy. Yeah, it's super easy to use.
And you just acquire horde tokens when you play.
So it won't be horde tokens. It'll be just like in-game currency, like sort of like a
Okay.
play money, just like again as a proof of concept to show like
Gotcha.
that streaming money works. Yeah.
But it
So
could have been horde token. Then that's the proof of
yeah.
concept part.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
it could be anything. It could be DAI as a stable coin. It could be
Dai
Ether.
would be dope. I think Dai's super underappreciated.
It is for sure. Yeah, yeah.
Especially with all this Tether news coming out. I'm like, how is nobody appreciating Dai at this moment in time right now? Like, and Peter McCormick made a tweet, said, how does nobody care about this Tether news? And here's my reaction. The same reason nobody gives a shit about the Federal Reserve being insolvent and the IRS scamming everybody is they don't care to begin with. Everybody that used Tether was 99% sure it was a scam anyway. But it was a scam that
Yeah.
was working for them, so they didn't care. Now that they know it's a scam, they just feel more confident in it because it's a scam the whole time and it's been working the whole time. It actually gave more confidence to Tether than hurt Tether, if you friggin' think about it. And unfortunately, I think Dai is a sleeper stablecoin, and I want to shill Dai more. So just guys, Dai, DAI, just Google it. Math. It's math.
It's awesome. Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah. It's I mean, it pretty much as decentralized as we can get at this point.
Dude, I think Easter eggs are going to be pretty cool too in the future. Could you imagine like how there was Easter eggs in I don't know if you were a big Call of Duty fan, but in Nazi Zombies there were the Easter eggs. So you didn't just shoot zombies. You could go and pick up a teddy bear and build up this Easter egg of a convoluted storyline. And at the end, you didn't really get anything. But imagine if there was a private key in place of Easter eggs, where now how many people are going to be willing to play your game? And I remember there was one game on the Steam, STEAM, Steam game. I can't remember what it was called, but it was like an escape room, sort of like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire quiz kind of a thing. And there was a private key at the end of that game. And I think that, when you build a game that is free to play or pay to win or whatever you want to do as your business model, if you put an Easter egg like Ready Player One in your game, you will make tenfold that Easter egg, period. And that's like poker tournaments. The house always wins more than the main poker player. And that's just sustainable business economics. But the gamification of that hasn't been applied yet. You put one Bitcoin into your game and you charge people zero point zero 0.01 Bitcoin to play, you'll make more than that one Bitcoin in return from people that have tried to play to win that Bitcoin.
Yeah, yeah. There's lots of ways to set it up. There's something to be said for blockchain being used for storytelling, like as a coordination mechanism for like people discovering stories, like being led down certain trails, and like having some kind of experience. Like that's what we're doing when we spend most of our time on social media, right? We're like what are our friends up to when we're scrolling through Instagram or whatever? We're like trying to like learn these stories. Like, oh, that seems like it'd be a cool place to go check out. Like my friends had a good time. They're like on their vacation or whatever, and yeah, Easter eggs is like a digital way to sort of like lead people through interesting storylines and like deliver them content, monetize it in interesting ways.
And
Either
really unique experience play too.
yeah, it's true.
Because you could
And
have you could have a Horde Easter egg, an Engine Easter egg, a Steam Easter egg, and there could be, three people that finished this Easter egg but never had the same experience because there was different Easter eggs, right? Like the first one was claimed. Now there's another Easter egg. So it provides more of a very unique end game experience for people that have been playing games their whole lives and we have all had the same ending. every time we beat a game, we've all gotten to the same endpoint.
Yeah, yeah,
It's going to be like Bandersnatch, and that's what blockchain makes really possible. Is that Bandersnatch? Netflix did the Black Mirror video
yeah,
for Bandersnatch. I think that unique streaming experience was gamifying my data. Like the amount of money they earned from the data of me interacting with that video and how I interacted with it and the ending I got to and all this. I think video games are going to do the same thing, and they're going to be like Fortnite free to play, and they're going to data mine us on that gamified unique experience.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's an open ledger, so yeah, I bet that totally makes sense. And like you said, like people will have different endings to their stories as well, and that'll be awesome. Like that Easter egg that you find, maybe depending on like what your gaming portfolio looks like what games you've been playing and what decisions you've made in other games, like that Easter egg will become something like unique to you. Like it's generated based on
That's cool.
your wallet. You know
So
what I
like
mean?
with your attributes, like how CryptoKitties are born based on your personal portfolio of attributes, you get a unique
Yeah,
NFT that is created from an algorithm.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Something like that.
You know what? You brought up a really interesting point a minute ago about like the whole like we want to follow the storyline of our social peers and things, and I thought that was an interesting concept when I thought about NFTs and the social evaluations that we will have. So
Yeah,
hear me out. You could have two crypto kitties. They're the same exact crypto kitty. They're worth $1, but one crypto kitty is owned by Vitalik and the other crypto kitty is owned by who cares? I want that crypto kitty that came from Vitalik's wallet. It is
yeah,
worth intrinsically more to me that it comes from him, even though it's the same as. So when you're talking about like a sword or a Lamborghini that is tokenized in Grand Theft Auto, I want Floyd Mayweather's Lamborghini. I don't want some random player's Lamborghini. So I think that if you like content creators and streamers start playing these blockchain games, those NFTs may not be worth much on the open market, but nostalgically, individually, as a peer-to-peer valuation, because it's your NFT and you have an audience base like Ninja, he'll be able to sell that John Wick skin for 10x more than it actually goes for because it's his John Wick skin.
dude, it's so true. And we see that analogy, like the analog version of that in the real world. Like this guitar, is from one of my favorite musicians. Like that's not
But
like I
prove
didn't.
it. Let me see the blockchain ledger.
Oh yeah, right, yeah. Well, but you know what I mean? It's a signature guitar. It's not like I could have gone and gotten any guitar, and I was like, no, what, no. Like I want to be like
Right.
my favorite rock star kind of a thing.
That's
And
awesome.
you know what I mean? Like that's just how people are. So like having like a story built into items is it's special
It
for
is,
whatever
and
reason.
it's so unique and disruptive that I really don't think that there's a lot to gain from the legacy industry. So I did want to cover a little bit of like the pros and cons because like we're trying to on ramp right and mass adopt people into this, but I think there's going to be it's going to be a chaotic on ramp. It's not going to be comfortable. It's going to be icky. People are going to lose their private keys to their video games, and they're going to lose their Pokemon cards on the blockchain, and it's going to be uncomfortable. But it's going to be what evolution needs. Like evolution doesn't come from being comfortable. It comes from discomfort and I would say inconvenienceness, right? Like we evolve when things are inconvenient, and well, that's what's happening. So, where do you see? I would say start with the cons, like worst case scenarios that we could run into as we move into the gaming industry for blockchain error.
Oh, some of the worst case scenarios. Um, well, if people really do begin playing games like as a full-time job or full-time lifestyle, uh, if we don't have good privacy settings set up, like if ZK Snarks isn't scalable, affordable, or adopted, kind of a thing, then all of a sudden, like your entire net worth is just like exposed on chain. And we kind of have that problem now, but like it is obfuscated by the fact that you don't have to announce your address, but when you're playing a game, your avatar is inherently connected to your address. So like that identity
Yep.
uh, thing is mechanism is like it's right there and it's observable.
Yeah, it
So
scares me because if I like send somebody $1 in Bitcoin, they know my money. They could use like a chain analysis to get my history. And if I send you an NFT, I really don't want that problem.
Yeah, no, I don't either. I'm like super like I pretty much use Coinbase or any of those services for making payments to people. Like my cold storage is elsewhere. Like I'm not making transactions from that, for the reason that like I want people to like trace.
Tumblrs get a bad name, but I think tumblrs are necessary for privacy and personal security. And
Yeah,
because of the bad rep that tumblrs have for bad actors and malicious end users, it's unfair. It's like demonizing the internet for child porn. Nobody should use the internet because of that. I mean, like I think
yeah,
tumblrs and having these options for privacy are really important, and especially like you said, when we're moving into a world where, dude, a crypto kitty just sold for $250,000 in New York City. Do you
yeah.
really want to be that honeypot?
No, yeah. That's
Me
that's
neither. I wouldn't even play a video game if that was a problem I'd have to deal with.
It's totally true. You know what's interesting too? Like just as a quick tangent, I saw very recently, I think it was Canada, like their revenue agency. I'm not sure what they call it up there, but they put out um, I don't know if it's a mandatory document if you claim crypto on your taxes, but they go through and one of the very first questions, like first 5 questions on there, along with like what coins do you have you ever used a Tumblr? And it's like I'm flabbergasted. Like has somebody really answered that they have? I don't know.
Well, I could see reasons why I would use a Tumblr if I was buying a car or that $250,000 crypto kitty, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
If I'm
definitely.
buying that from you and I don't want to be misleading to my taxes, I use the Tumblr to mislead you, but I will opt into allowing the tax company or whatever entity to know, yes, I did use this option, but it was to give myself personal security during a private peer-to-peer transaction. So when I bought that $250,000 crypto kitty, this guy doesn't know that I'm a giant honeypot or we could possibly be a pool of 100 investors. We like
Yeah,
to have that security. So I think that's why that option's there. But who would use a Tumblr and say, yeah, me? But then you have the state of what state? Wyoming is now accepting Bitcoin for your taxes. Who
right,
uses Bitcoin and says, I can't wait to pay taxes?
right. Actually, that's interesting. Yeah, I've never. I mean, I've not used a Tumblr. I've not thought of it in that way, but that makes sense. I mean, there's like total general applications for using it.
Oh, totally. It's just
Yeah,
we have that mainstream propaganda mentality of a
yeah,
perspective that it can only be malicious when we think of malicious activities and how they can be used against us as rather as we can use them to our best benefit, not as a malicious benefit. It
right.
starts to have a different perspective, like guns, right? Like guns don't kill people; people with guns kill people. That
Yeah,
whole argument is the technology itself evil, or is the application of the technology itself evil? And it's how
yeah,
they can perpetuate that perspective. So tumblers are inherently evil because of drugs, gambling, extortion, blah blah blah. But then I start to talk about how I got robbed because I didn't use a Tumblr and somebody knew my IP address from a transaction through a hash signature, and now I'm robbed and dead. And so like I think that's just we have to break those barriers to use case, right? Like
yeah,
Silk Road. Everybody thinks of Silk Road and goes right to heroin. Well, what about birth control, antibiotics, insulin? A
yeah,
lot of
yeah.
things that people need that are drugs, but they can't get without paying a doctor for the doctor's permission to then go pay a pharmacist for the pharmacist's permission to take the substance that you need not to die.
Or they're in a country where that's just not available.
Or a state in the United States where birth control is illegal in 2019. We
Yeah,
need we need people we need ways for people that want these treatments to get them if they so choose to.
yeah, that's true. There's still a lot of taboos that need to be torn down
Well,
for
that's
sure.
why I think Max Kaiser's big joke is, if the government got rid of, money laundering and made drugs and everything legal, Bitcoin doesn't really have much of a use case, right? Like, I'm like, I guess the unconfiscatable part's still pretty cool, but yeah, I guess if you don't have to worry about what is money laundering or peer-to-peer transaction reprimanding, transactions where you get in trouble, like yeah, I guess that's kind of the joke of it. But I think that the unconfiscatable aspect of this, and even thinking of the NFTs, imagine how many people have played Fortnite. Like, you can look at this, right? Like, these are people that have million fans watching them play Fortnite. And because they didn't do something right, or they got in a glitch and it looked like they were cheating or whatever, the terms and services were broken, and all of the money they put into that game has now been erased. They
Yeah.
were robbed legally due to terms and services. And this happens to people that have millions of fans that put hundreds of thousands of dollars into Fortnite for the skins and the season passes. And imagine the people that don't have that audience and don't have that voice and maybe only have it happen with $10. But that $10 is still $10. That's a lot to some people. So I think that unconfiscatable perspective when it comes to NFTs, as these legacy games screw their end users, as they keep doing, the new era developers are going to be able to swoop in and do that whole, hey, we're going to give you a better customer experience and we're going to do it for free. You can choose to give us money for shit if you really want to.
Yeah, yeah, it's the overhead of like going through and trying to figure out like who in your community is breaking the rules, and then wiping them of all their assets from like a game studio perspective. That's expensive. Like there's some overhead to that. Like there's some legal implications too in terms of like did you just steal from the players?
Oh, yes, they do. Every time, in my opinion.
And like well, yeah, and I would agree with that. From their perspective, they're in a tough spot. Like if somebody legitimately broke their terms and services, like if somebody's, for example, just like being exceptionally abusive to somebody online, right? Like that player probably isn't. It's not worth having that player in the community, kind of a thing. And so like maybe they do want to remove them. Removing them though still would subject them to some kind of like legal liability, even if they have that disclaimer. Like that's not always airtight. And so for them, like the overhead might be worth it to be like, you know what, we can part on like good terms. Like you can't play the game anymore. You broke our terms of service, but like officially, like we are definitely not stealing from you because you get to keep all those items. You can go ahead and sell them on a marketplace, like to players who are still playing the game. We're not going to take that from you, but like just as a person, you can't participate.
Right, and that's the difference between like a personal ban and an ban, where like League of Legends can ban your IP address. Well, then why can't I sell my League of Legends account to you? You have a different IP address. You should be allowed to play that account, just not me. I got in trouble using it. It's worth
Yeah.
$10,000. I'll sell it to you for $5,000.
Yeah, and that's real money. That's money you can put down for like a house payment or something. That's not a trivial amount.
Well, this is what a lot of people don't realize with gaming and children, and where I really, really see this like totally taking off accidentally is with kids. Kids are who owns the most Fortnite content? Children. And
Yeah.
that could be their fucking college fund, Chris. Like they could go to like if I kept all my Pokemon cards, I would have enough money to buy a Lamborghini. I've done the math. It breaks my heart every time I think about that binder that my mom put in public storage and didn't pay the 1 month's bill, so they auctioned it off. Yeah, that whole storage wars thing, that happened to me. Somebody got a binder full of Pokemon cards worth like 10 to 100x more than what I put into it. And this could happen to kids today where if they weren't just wasting money on Fortnite or potentially playing games like Steam Monsters, it would mean the difference as of an investment or a spend.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree. And it'll also, just from like an educational standpoint, probably also, hopefully, I don't know, I'm trying, making sure like not to spin this, but you're right. Like hopefully it would teach kids like the value of saving as well.
Well, you're
And
not even encouraged to learn about it till you're 18 because you're not allowed to participate in the financial system.
yeah, no, it's true. And even then, like if your family doesn't teach you that kind of stuff, like you don't get that in school unless you go and you study finance. Like, very occasionally there'll be a like personal finance class in high school, but that's usually like either, a before hours class or some kind of like after hours class. Like it's not really
Meanwhile, dodgeball is mandatory.
right. And that stuff it's important. And, gamifying it is proven to be an excellent way for education. Like gamification happens in the school place. It happens in the workplace. Like I was at a Fortune 500 company here in Seattle before being part of Ward, and like doing communications for them. We talked multiple times about like, how do we gamify the workforce? Like that is a real conversation that people are trying to figure out. And, there's reasons for it. It's like it teaches people, kind of like certain lessons depending on
So
what
let's
those.
riff on the concept real quick of corporate NFTs as badges of honor, like Boy Scout patches, right? Like where these badges at the end of the year could be redeemed for a paid day's vacation,
Yeah.
or you could get you could be bumped up on the list for promotion, or X, Y, and Z. Now, does that cause the social status crisis that China is seeing with the peer-to-peer reviews? Or
Yeah.
does this gamify in a positive way, right? Like I
No, yeah.
try to ride the sword on both edges. It be I have to brown nose my way to the top, or can I just genuinely be a good employee and people just don't like me and I can still become the CEO? What do you see when we start to do things with these NFT badges of incentive and encouragement?
That's so hard. I think, well, a couple different things. Like, yeah,
Employee of the month NFT has a real ring to it.
uh, man, it could go so many different directions. You'd have to have like some kind of objective measurement, right? Like, for, I don't know, man, it gets so political so fast, especially in the corporate world.
I think it really comes down to a living consensus where it's not always 51%, it's not always 80%. It's a living consensus on how things are mechanized, and I think that living consensus will be based on how it was gamified for the reputation. So the gamification of the reputation contributes back to the gamification.
Yeah. Well, like, and yeah, one of the problem or like one of the things that game designers try and solve for now is like, how do we separate players who are legendary versus like rookie? You know what I mean? Like, we don't want all the time
Right.
legendary players just to be like annihilating rookies, and so like you would have to implement the same sort of standards or practices
I think
in the
Steam Monsters actually nailed that. I know we were talking
yeah.
about it off air. If you have a chance to try it and play Steam Monsters, you'll notice as a novice player that you can fight people that are legendary people, but in tournaments that have strict guidelines to where they're not overpowering. So they may be at a handicap and you may be at an advantage, but that's because they've been playing for X amount and their cards and their in-game content is so leveled up that it would be unfair. So they have the game mechanics debuff so they match. So we're playing on an even playing ground. It just comes down to skill now.
Interesting. Yeah, I'll have to give it a try. I've got my card here
Don't show the
from.
private key on the bottom.
Oh, did I? Oh, well, I gotta go redeem it or something. I think I
Yeah,
mentioned it.
yeah. You go to
Yeah.
steammonsters.com and you can redeem it, and it will actually give you 30 NFT cards that you can play in tournaments. And I actually play in tournaments, and they have pretty cool tournaments. Like, I think they've already given over $20,000 away to people that played the game.
Damn, that's cool.
Right? That's what I'm saying. Like, people think this is 5 years from now or some crazy future, but it's happening. It's just not happening at the scale of Fortnite, but it is happening.
Yeah, we got to see like certain use cases designed, and once we see those use cases like working for the first time, then they'll be like massively adopted. I hope. Yeah.
Well, like you work with Horde and you have the mentality for it. Like, how could a game like Fortnite implement blockchain technologies with NFTs without destroying the foundation that they kind of built the game on? Like, how do we on ramp legacy games into this comfortably?
That's a hard question. The reason being is Fortnite's business model is designed to acquire these, like just outright purchase them, right? And if there was a secondary market, it would be in direct competition with their business model, right?
Unfortunately.
Yeah. So it makes it makes me think that like the game models have to transition to expecting revenue from similar but not directly competitive sources.
Like Neon District. They did like their NFTs pre-sale and then the people that actually want to play the game got to decide like what it's worth. If I'm going to bid 10 Ethereum on a game content, I've got to hope that it's worth that, right? I wouldn't just throw that money out there and that's what it's worth to me. So if I ever want to sell it, I'm going to want to sell it for more than what I put in crypto wise, which I think is really interesting. When we sell these NFTs for crypto and not US dollar, people aren't going to want their $100 back as much as they're going to want their Ethereum back or their 2 Ethereum back.
Yeah, and if a game sets up the economy so that way secondary market transactions or whatever the marketplace is. But whenever transactions occur, like revenue is generated back to the game developers. I think that's very fair. Like the game developers have put in the work to create a world where wealth can be generated by the players. So I think it's very reasonable.
Developer fees are the one of the truest forms of taxation because it has
Yeah,
truest representation.
yeah, it is. It is 100%.
And we
So,
opt into those. If you don't want to contribute to the development, don't then opt out. Don't do it. But I feel like a lot of that freeware that's going to be coming out with that developer incentive built in, that's the incentivization structure we've always needed for developers to get off their ass and stop working for other people and work for them themselves. Developers get more done in their basement in their pajamas than they do in a cubicle. Facts. And they do it at their own pace and they get it done better. Facts. So when we're able to see these developers contribute with protocols that just has their payroll built in, I 100% appreciate that.
yeah, yeah. Virtual jobs are, I mean, it's a huge lifestyle change. I get to work remote nowadays, and like that's been amazing for like, I mean, for like my productivity, for like my mental health, for like just well-being, for like everything. You know what I mean? Like it's just yeah, yeah. If game developers are able to do that, that's like the dream for them.
Unfortunately, though, it's disruptive. Again, the 9 to 5ers hate the giggers. It is a fact. Like, you don't have
Yeah.
a real job? Like, well, I make money. What do you mean by a real job? Like, do you mean I don't work for somebody else, like, that cracks a whip over my shoulder? Like, yeah, I have an employer, but I mean, I don't, I work from home. Like, that's not a real job. Like, it's the mentality of the majority that really limits their own abilities when they try to apply themselves, right? Like, I could never be ninja. Okay, yeah, you're right. Ninja's ninja. You be you. If you want to stream, press record and do it. Like, it's possible. And right now, when you look at crypto and NFTs and blockchain gaming, this is the time right now where the next ninja will be born. Start playing blockchain games and streaming them, like, if that's what you want. But I mean, it's limitless. You can do whatever you want in this industry because it's so opportunist. It's so early. And I guess we kind of wrap things up with, I'm curious here. Does Horde have any bounty systems or any way to get the community involved? And if so, like, where can like people that are watching get involved with Horde.exchange?
That is such a great question. Yeah, something that I am working on right now is putting out a bounty system. Yeah, I can't really say too much more than that, but it will be. Yeah, I'm hoping to
So
get it
where can
going.
people follow you?
But
So when you tweet it out, or I know Horde Exchange will tweet it out, but like, how can people stay on the ball with this? You have a Discord, Telegram.
yeah, We'll be opening up a Discord pretty soon. Our Telegram is. It might just be Horde. I'm trying to think off the top of my head here, but you can find it on our website. It's www.horde.exchange. Yeah, we've got the same handle on Twitter, which is just at Horde Exchange. I am at C Bob Robison, and yeah, we'll get those bounties going out soon because what we really want to do, right, is like have some kind of call to action to the community, right? We want people to know, like, have activities to do to like begin building this, like
Gamified
begin
engagement.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah,
So
you got to incentivize and monetize the contributions of your community. Otherwise, people
yeah,
are lazy. They genuinely are. Like, how many people out there love Bitcoin but don't have podcasts? It's how do we incentivize them to start doing that? I would love to see Vitalik do a daily podcast, but it's just not incentivized. If we could find a way to put a bounty out and he could see the number, he'd contribute.
yeah, I'll say this. There's yeah, bounties too, since we're on the topic of NFTs. I think bounties with NFTs are very, very interesting because a lot of the bounties out there are like, tweet about us or follow us on Twitter, and like those ones are important. But at the same time, like there's a part of me that knows that if I tweet one of those out, people can look up what the bounty was and they see like Chris was willing to do this for $2 or something like that. And it's like, I don't know. Like, I want to support the community. I want to fulfill a bounty for them because I like the community. But actually, sometimes that like dollar amount discourages me. And having an NFT makes it like, oh, you guys don't even have to worry. Like, it's not even a dollar amount. It's just like, I want to be part of this community. And here's like how my story is being told in it. I get this NFT as
Yep.
a reward. So
Well, you're detaching the US dollar value to the reward that you got. So it doesn't matter what it's worth, it just matters what it is. And I think you just started a really cool combo, and I hope you have a couple of minutes to touch on this, where
yeah,
I think the killer app, which we talked about earlier, is not currency for blockchain. It's the asset NFTs of, or not just like I'm talking crypto kitties. I mean like NFT that represents a physical car or my house or this computer that I'm using. Like the NFT tokenized physical asset or intangible in-game asset ownership is going to be the killer app, because when people look at that crypto kitty, like you said, they don't look at the dollar. They don't care. And I think when people start playing blockchain games and not realizing that they're earning tokenized content that has a third party marketplace value, they're just playing the game genuinely to play the game. And then they stumble across that they have just earned a bunch of these tokens that have a third party value because they're backed by an asset like Ethereum or Engine or whatever went into creating that token. It's going to be revolutionary to the fact that where we don't now where everybody jokes, right? Like one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin, when one Bitcoin really equals $5,323.45. But when people start to evaluate one NFT equals one NFT, one crypto kitty is one crypto kitty. So I think we're really onto something there. What are your thoughts?
no, I totally agree. I think the NFT movement is fulfilling a lot of the memes and ideas that people had in the early days of Bitcoin, that they latched on to the only thing that looked like Bitcoin, which was Bitcoin. And yeah, we'll see that dream fulfilled with NFTs. Like we tried to do colored coins back in the day. You know what I mean?
So
Like,
fun.
yeah.
How
And
many Bitcoin were burned in the process of making color coins?
yeah, yeah, I don't know. But,
You
but
can't unburn those color coins. I kind of thought about that. If that was possible, it'd be really cool, but it's not.
yeah, no, those are gone. And the Mastercoin, which came shortly after, had an Exodus address as well. Also burned all the all those Bitcoin in exchange for the Mastercoin token. So yeah, but yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you on that.
Yeah, so yeah, guys, definitely go check out horde.exchange. Pop up in their Telegram and keep an eye out for the Discord and the bounty system. I have a feeling it's going to be pretty fun. You'll probably find me in the bounties tab in their Discord when they hop it up, because me personally, and I'm no financial advisor, but like, there's only one thing I really don't mind parting with my Bitcoin or crypto for, and it's for NFTs. I actually have more use when I have an NFT than I do with a Bitcoin. And I think that when we see the mainstream on ramped into this, the killer app isn't fuck the banks. The killer apps fuck the marketplaces that steal my assets, whether they be crypto kitties or Fortnite skins or the deed to my house. It's going to be important to have asset ownership in forms of non-fungible tokens, and that doesn't mean just in-game content. But I think when we start to see in-game content represented in the real world, and I'll just leave on this note, imagine Lamborghini has one Lamborghini in Grand Theft Auto, and if you happen to find that Lamborghini, you can redeem it for a real Lamborghini. You're going to want to care about asset ownership then, guys. So think about it, riff on it, and Chris, any last words?
Thanks for having me, dude. This was awesome. This was a lot of fun, and glad we did it.
Yeah, man, likewise, dude. I'm hella excited for Horde.exchange. Guys, go check it out. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll see you in the group chat, all right? And the bounties, keep an eye out. All right, guys, don't forget, pound that thumbs up button. It looks like this. And click the subscribe button. If you hold your phone like this and flick the alert bell, it'll make a ding sound. You don't trust me? Try it. All right, guys, have a day.